From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon as a major week wraps, but going into a new week is going to be bigger across the board. Earnings recession, yes, some companies miss, but other companies beat this last week. We'll go over the latest details you need to know. Plus, the big issues of this economy, recession and inflation, heated up with the housing data that came in this week. Boy, it wasn't good. Housing starts down, housing cancellations up. And then when we go over to the inflation data, boy, that was all left and right. Retail sales flat, CPI flat, and PPI flat, even though the month before they all beat. We'll go over the latest details you need to know. And then out of nowhere, last weekend, you saw the news on this channel. New stimulus checks. 7 new stimulus checks. On top of that, lifetime of stimulus. The biggest payout you ever seen of a generation. On top of the 3 stimulus checks that have been on this channel since the month of March. We'll go over the latest details you need to know tonight. Plus, the raise of your benefits. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, and Veterans benefits. And why, if inflation doesn't peak, then those benefits are going up. We'll go over the big money of that stimulus that's still heating up, and why viewers are now getting more months of checks than ever before. Become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, and Casino VIP. With a recession underway, tonight we go over the latest details of a soft landing. Will it be pulled off by the Federal Reserve, or will it not be pulled off? For you, the exciting details is 10 categories of checks are now law, and viewers are getting it. We'll go over the latest details of how you get this money. We'll be going over the raise of your benefits and what we'll be looking at in the new data this week. We'll be looking back over what we learned this last week, and we'll be looking at where those indications are in the supermarket, the checkout stand for you to gauge where inflation's going and your recession. It's a big broadcast, and we have a lot to go over from the shores of Santa Monica, California. The big heating up of that money and that recession and that inflationary data gets underway on a brand new Afternoons LALATE for August 20th, 2022, starting right now. For August 20th, 2022, 7 new stimulus checks join the 3 existing stimulus checks we've had on the channel since the month of March. And they're not checks, they're categories of checks. You're going to see why it's upwards of 100 checks in today's recording on top of that lifetime stimulus. We'll be going over the earnings recession. We'll go over the data that came in this week, including that unemployment numbers. Which way did it go? We'll have the latest details across the board. We'll be looking at that benefit lift and why, if wage inflation, housing inflation, and also food inflation stays with us, your benefits are going up a lot. We have a lot to cover in this recording today on that subject matter. Plus, when we go over to the housing starts down, the existing home sales down, the consumer confidence down. But one thing up is the cancellation. That's why you have to become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. And in the big second half, we're going to go over those big checks that viewers are getting. 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state, and now 10 categories of them. Boy, it's a big broadcast, and we're excited you're here. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, tonight, we go over your housing market, your unemployment, your 4th stimulus. The breaking news starts right here, right now, on a beautiful August 20th, 2022 of Afternoons LALATE. How are you? I hope you're having a beautiful day. It has cooled down considerably here in Southern California. But one of the things that's not cooled down has been your stimulus and inflation. Plus, the recessionary debate. In tonight's recording, we go over a brand new subject matter. Soft landing. Will the Federal Reserve pull off a soft landing? What does soft landing mean? And why are analysts already giving you guidance on what they think when it may not actually be happening? That's coming up in just a second. But tonight we start with a major story, and that's housing. Housing is an indication of where your money is going to land, even if you don't own a house. Why is that? Because housing is a very big, important indicator of inflation, recession, and the impact of the Federal Reserve on those interest rate spikes. The issue at hand is that people may not be buying homes and they can't afford the home. And they can't afford the home if the interest rates are through the roof. What are we looking at tonight for that housing data, and what do you need to know as well? 3 days of a consecutive housing data that was released this week, and it was all the same narrative. Housing recession is underway. But what should you know? And what do we see the month before? The month before, existing home sales down, new home sales down, and also the builder confidence down. So then when we went to this week, we had a series of housing data, and every day was much the same narrative. Housing recession. On August 17th, we had the home builders cancellation rate. This is how many homes were in contract, and then people said, you know what, buyers, you know what, I'm walking away. I want to cancel the deal. The cancellation rates doubled compared to the month of April. A runaway number, and this came in from John Bird's Real Estate Consulting Group on August 17th. The cancellations, where were they the most? They were the most in Texas at 27%, and in the Southwest, which of course includes California, at 25%. What accounted for the cancellation rate? The interest rates. People went into contract potentially in February or March, and then the Federal Reserve raised those interest rates, and now people said, I can't afford the mortgage. I can't afford the mortgage. I'm walking away. In California, you can get a free refund, a complete refund. And when we look at the other data this week for housing, it was much the same left and right. On August 15th, the National Association of Home Builders Wells Fargo Housing Market Index was released, and anything below a 50 is considered negative. The number came in at 49. It dropped 6 points in 1 month. This is the eighth consecutive month where the data is down. And what did the analysts say that released the report? The National Association of Home Builders chief economist Robert Dietz said tight monetary policies for the Federal Reserve and persistent elevation and construction costs have brought on a housing recession. This is par for the course because we knew this was coming. And when you look at the individual parts of the market, they are all suffering. High-end, middle, and low-end. The buyers are walking away because affordability is not there. The total volume of family starts with a post-decline that will post-decline in 2022 is the largest decline since 2011, says Dietz in that comment then. Well, the day after, on August 16th, we also had the latest details on the price of homes, which have also pulled back left and right. The price of homes pulled back left and right on the high-end, middle, and also the low-end part of the market. Generally 20 to 30%, which we're seeing left across the board. Is this mirroring itself in another part of the economy? You may say yes. When you look at the data that came in from the retail sales this week, the retail sales that came in this week were not particularly good. And those retail sales numbers dropped left and right. Those retail sales were missing as inflation was growing. And what do we see this week on that front as well? When we look at those retail sales, they were relatively flat for the month of July, released this week. Then when we jump over to the corporate earnings that were released this week, those retail sales were not particularly robust either. This week we had Walmart, Kohl's, and Target all report corporate earnings and different stories depending on the retailer. Target had guided downward in the month of May, then guided downward in the month of June, then guided downward in the month of July, and then reported earnings this week and missed on 3 downward guidances. BJ's, a discount wholesaler, much like a Costco, actually beat, even though they've never downward guided over the last few months. Walmart beat, and then Kohl's missed dramatically. And this was in a week in which the manufacturing report was released. It was actually a positive number. This is how much manufacturing is happening in the U.S. economy. It was a negative number in the month of June, negative 12.6%. Wall Street was looking at another negative number. and it came in at a positive number of 6.2%. That's growth of the U.S. economy. Wow. So you see basically a inconsistent narrative when you're looking at the retail element. But ultimately, why are we looking at retail? Because it gauges inflation. It gauges inflation. We'll be jumping over that, and your benefit raises in just a second. What do we have on those retail numbers that came in this week, and why was Walmart's cautionary tale cautionary, but not so bad, not particularly so bad left and right? Well, when we saw this week unravel and when the week was done, what did we get in on those retail numbers? BJ's wholesaler beat dramatically. Kohl's missed dramatically. Target missed dramatically. And Walmart did relatively well. Estee Lauder missed. Tapestry beat. And then Bath and Body Works beat dramatically, but Bed Bath & Beyond had been tumbling all week long. When Ryan Cohen filed a notice of intent to sell his equity share, by the end of the week he had sold it. The stock was initially down 14.4% when that news came in left and right. This is big news when considering the raise of your benefits. Why? Because your benefits are determined by inflation. One of the best indications of inflation is the retail sales numbers. Let's look back and see what those retail sales numbers said this week and what they had said the month before, and why this is so important left and right. Your benefits are determined by the inflationary pressures of this economy, and ultimately we're looking for that inflationary pressures in the latest details that were released this week. And what did we get? Let's go over the details starting right now. Your benefits are getting a lift, but the lift of those benefits is determined by the benchmarks. A month ago, the CPI and the BPI beat, and also the retail sales. So we were looking to see what happened this week and what happened last week. And what happened? Well, let's recap. In the month of May, the Consumer Price Index, which gauges how much you're paying for products in the store, surged dramatically, 8.6%. In the month of June, it surged even higher, 9.1%. This is a major lift for your benefits across the board. Why is it? We'll go over the calculations in a second, but it's upwards of $5,000, even more, for people like you, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and railroad benefits. So what happened on that inflationary story this week and at the end of last week? Retail sales came in this week, and the number was flat. It was flat. So that is really good. It basically says inflation is staying where we want it. We want it where it is or higher. We don't want it going down. CPI went up in the month of May, went up in the month of June. What happened last week when it was released for the month of July? It was basically flat on the headline summary number. When you jump into the core parts of the number, it was still up month to month. The CPI released August 10th for the month of July was down a half a percentage point to 8.5%. But when you look at the component parts, they were up. Wage inflation up. The rent inflation up. The food and products you buy in the supermarket up. And while gasoline was down, bringing down the headline number, the component parts were up month to month. The producer price index relatively flat. And then, of course, 2 days ago, we had the retail sales relatively flat. This is great news for you. Why? Because if inflation stays where it is, attracts higher, you're getting the biggest lift of a generation. And this, my friends, is what we started with at the start of the recording. This is what we call lifetime stimulus. Lifetime stimulus. Why? Because once your benefits go up, they never go down. This is huge news for your benefits. And let's go over why starting right now. If you get a lift of your benefits this year, for example, of 12%, that lift is not just for this year, it's lifetime. Once your benefits go up, they never go down. So if next year inflation is 2%, you get 2% lift on top of that 12%. That's huge. So now let's jump into why. Your benefits are tied to something called COLA, cost of living adjustment. And that is determined by 3 months of one number, the CPI-W, for the month of July, released last week, August 10th. The August number released on September 10th, and then the September number released October 10th. If inflation stays relatively flat over those 3 months, and we saw this last week and the week before that, it was flat. If it stays flat for 2 more months, you're getting this massive lift of your benefits. Let's go over why. Your benefits are tied to that CPI-W, and your benefits are going up based upon that massive inflation that we're suffering with right now. And if inflation stays where it is, then that's what's happening with your benefits. You, SSI, SSDI, Social Security Railroad benefits. Do you have to do anything? No. Direct deposit? Yes. How much? Approximately $5,000. Some of you more, some of you less. And yes, 3 months of data. July, August, and September determines that equation. Well, what percentage are the benefits going up? The Seniors League, a nonprofit organization, look at that CPI release last week of 8.5%. And based upon that CPI of 8.5%, they said your benefits are going up 10.1%. Do you agree or do you disagree? Let's do the analysis right now. They are looking at the headline number and also the component number. But if you believe that rent is staying where it is or going higher, if you believe that salaries are where they are going higher, and if you believe the milk and eggs are where they are going higher, that none of those numbers are going down, and even if you believe that the price of gasoline may actually go back higher, in fact it has in the last 3 days, it's gone from 93 back up to 97 and 98, then you believe that that 10.1 from the league, for the Seniors League, is conservative. What do I believe? I believe it's conservative. I see nothing in these component parts of the CPI-W going down. I see them flat or going higher. And I believe the gasoline's going to track higher. And in the last 3 days, it has, from 93 back up to 98. Gasoline will go higher in the fall months when refineries go offline because of hurricanes and tornadoes. And the demand of gasoline picks up because of demand for in the winter months. There you go. So direct deposit, yes. Otherwise in the mail, yes. Do you have to do anything? No. Lifetime, yes. How much? Some of you more than 5,000, some of you less than 5,000. And same percentage raise, absolutely. It's lifetime stimulus. And this, my friends, is one of the many stimulus items covered on this channel that are all featured in the membership newsletter. That's why you want to become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. This last week, we got the big news of this economy, that 7 new categories of stimulus checks became a law. Yes, 7 new categories of stimulus became a law. And those 7 new categories of stimulus are huge. 7 new categories of stimulus are now law in addition to the 3 categories of stimulus that have been covered on this channel since the month of March. $100,000 of 4 stimulus checks became law in the month of March. And I'm going to go over those stimulus checks in just a second. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or Railroad benefits. These checks are Check A, Check B, and Check C, and you qualify. You've been getting them since the month of March. But now, in addition to those 3 categories, A, B, and C, there's 7 new categories, E to K. And how do you get them? Step 1, you become a member. Step 2, you go down the membership newsletter to where it goes over those 7 new categories of checks. And let's go over everything you need to know starting right now. Those 7 new categories of checks, I give the lettering system on this channel of E to K. And what are they? Well, they're incredible. E to K are brand new items and brand new categories of checks. And let's look at them starting right now. E is $7,500. F is $4,000. G is 30% off. K is $2,000. I and J are a whopping $2,000. Excuse me, $8,000. And K is $14,000. How do you get these incredible 7 new categories of stimulus checks? Go in the membership newsletter. Pass A, B, and C down to where it says E to K, and go and get them. Pounces of Purple Hawks today, and go get those big sums of money. One of the other incredible benefits of the membership newsletter is the worksheets, and that worksheets are detailed starting right now. The membership worksheets are down around the 3rd line of the newsletter, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And what do we know about those worksheets tonight based upon the breaking news of Wall Street, your economy, and this recession and inflation? Well, page 1 is inflation and recession. And tonight we know more about those inflationary pressures. Inflation may have peaked at that top line number of CPI, but the core numbers not peaked. Wage inflation still going up. Rent inflation still going up. Food inflation still going up. And gasoline, well, it's tracking up higher. That is big news for your benefits. We'll be watching more of that that this coming week when we get ready for the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index. That's the next gauge of inflation before the next CPI is released and PPI. But ultimately, you can gauge inflation by looking at it in the supermarket, by looking at the number of checkers at the checkout stand, by looking at the impacts of food inflation in the shelves, the impact of wage inflation in the stores, and the impact of rent inflation in the apartments. Then recession. Tonight we go over more about that recession and why its impact on you is so clearly felt. The Federal Reserve, will they pull off a soft landing or not a soft landing? I'll go over that in the big second half. Labor. Well, here we go. Big shocker. The new jobless claims were released this Thursday by the Department of Labor. And for the first time in a while, that number went the other direction. Yes. Unemployment claims went the other direction this last week, and that was a shocker. When you look at those unemployment claims, what happened? Those unemployment claims surged higher in recent weeks from 140,000 in the month of April to 260,000 last week. We were looking at for a 265 print this week, but it went down to 250,000 new jobless claims. Fascinating across the board. The labor rate, unemployment rate is the lowest since the 1960s. That's also fascinating left and right. The Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is going to do an interest rate spike in the month of September. I'm projecting it's 75 basis point. And I'm projecting the Federal Reserve is going to do 75 basis point interest rate spikes in September through December. I'll explain to you why in the big second half. The next page of the worksheets is huge, and this is where people are getting big shocks. And here it is. Where do you find these worksheets? Of course, down the newsletter, around the third line of the newsletter. This is a wonderful table for you to keep track of all those incredible categories of checks for you to apply for. Check A is one check. Check B is upwards of 80 to 100 checks. Check C is 80 to 100 checks. Check E to K, we just went over. 10 categories of checks. So there's upwards of 100 to 200 checks to apply for in that membership newsletter. And this is the page for you to keep track of it. Last Saturday, a viewer got 14 months of rent. Congratulations to that viewer. The day before that, another viewer got 14 months of rent. Another viewer got 12 months of utilities. Spella got check A, Spella got check C, and one viewer out of Florida got 80 to 100 checks, and she used this worksheet page. She had filled it out, but she forgot to look at it. And so what happened? State of Florida contacted her, said, ma'am, you've been approved for check B. Wow. Her mortgage. Wow. How many months? 18 months. Oh my goodness. 18 months of mortgage? It gets better. She applied for 4 months. She applied for her 4 utilities approximately every month. 4 plus the mortgage, that's 5 checks per month. 18 months, that's 80 to 100 checks. My goodness. It's not a unique story. It's happening all the time. The next page of the worksheet is heating up with that student loan debt forgiveness. The president is not going to be doing that student loan debt forgiveness this month of August and rolling the decision over to the fall, says insiders. I'll feature that more tonight on Evenings LALATE. Moreover, the details of gasoline are likely to continue tracking up. I'll explain to you more on evenings. And finally, when we jump over to the benefit raises, the seniors laid 10.1% based upon a CPI print of 8.5. But do you think it'll be higher? I think it'll be higher. We'll be analyzing that more over the new week. This is why you want to become a member. All these incredible details in that membership newsletter and helped for you by the membership worksheet. When you look at that second page of that worksheet where it goes over the lines to apply for the stimulus, I recommend now to print out more pages of that worksheet, that page, because that worksheet, page 2, has about 20 lines and you're going to be applying for more than 20 checks. And that is why the success stories continue to come on in. In the big second half, we're going to go over all these incredible checks and what you need to know. Also, the big second half, we're going to go over the recession versus not recession, the issue of a soft landing and what you need to know. It's a big broadcast, and we're just getting started. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, don't forget to become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power Casino VIP. Go right on this video and become a member and get this incredible sums of money. Learn about the raise of your benefits, get the membership newsletter, get the LALATE worksheets, and get ready for the big second half as a beautiful day of August 20th, 2022 heats up. We're just getting started. The latest details on a big afternoon continues in just 60 seconds.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And the excitement continues right now on a beautiful August 20th, 2022 from the shores of Santa Monica, California. In this big second half, we'll be going over more about that lifetime stimulus and those big 7 new categories of stimulus checks. We'll be turning over to that recessionary discussion and what a soft landing is and what it means for you and your money. And then, of course, we'll be looking at the data and why that big stimulus continues to come on in. It's a big afternoon and it's a big second half. I hope you became a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. We're going to go over all these incredible checks in this big second half, and it all starts right now. Back in the month of March, viewers were asking me to find them stimulus checks, and I found them. A series of executive actions, and they make about $100,000. I had 3 focuses at the time: big money, broad eligibility, and ease of getting them. And I got it. Number 1, it's a series of different checks about $100,000. Are you going to need it? Because there's going to potentially be a 2-year recession. These big sums of money are available to you because broad eligibility. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. If you rent, if you own, if you're on benefits, if you're not on benefits, go get it as well. And ease of getting them, all in a membership newsletter, delivered so simple. The membership newsletter is delivered to members Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And all you got to do is go down, see check A, apply, see check B, apply, see check C, apply, and see the brand new checks E to K and go get them. And with that, let's go over those first 3 categories of checks. Those first 3 categories, they're not checks, they're categories of checks because some of them have 80 plus checks in each category. And we're going to start, of course, with check A. This is a wonderful check that Spelling got, $6,500 to $12,000 for a stimulus check in every U.S. state. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. And if you're on benefits, go get it as well. How do you get it? Go down into this video and join the channel. Membership is waiting for you. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. Go down to where it says check A, click the link, and go right to the nationwide website, choose your state, and go get the weatherizing grant check. You're not done there yet. You're going to go get check B. This is the check the viewer out of Florida got. $15,000 to $80,000, but she clearly got more than $80,000. How do you get this? Join the channel. Become a member of LALATE. Go under the video, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. Go down in the membership newsletter to see check B, and then click the link. Go right into the nationwide website, choose your state, and go get that incredible check B. Wow. Check B, 80,000. Check A, 12,000. We've already covered $100,000 of checks. But we're not done there yet. We're going to go get some check C's. This is the check that one viewer last weekend got 14 months of rent. Another viewer, 14 months of rent. Another viewer, 12 months of utilities. And we've been getting check C's on this channel for 2 years. Incredible sums of money. How do you get this? Become a member to LALATE. Join the channel. Get the membership newsletter Monday through Friday. Go down to where it says check C, and it tells you who to call, what to say, and how to say it. The success stories of Check C have been on this channel for a very long time. And remember, Check C is not one check, it's a category of checks. It is your rent, which viewers are getting 14 months to 18 months recently. It is your utilities. And if you have 5 months of utilities, 5 utilities per month, that is a lot of checks. It is your mortgage and anything related to that. And the average viewer in recent days is getting 14 to 18 months. 2 years ago, it was 2 to 3 months of these checks. Now it's 14 to 18 months because the viewers are taking the learning to earning and doing better than ever before. That's what you want to do as well. Let's look at the success stories over the years for Check C. $20,000 to $30,000 for rent. Richard, Nancy, Mark, Elizabeth, go get Check C. Look at these wonderful numbers for Check C for utilities. Mark, Angela, Nancy. Angela was in the live chat yesterday. And then Snap, Mark's brother-in-law is getting $250,000 over 10 years for Snap. Then combinations of checks. Nisi went from $23,000 to $50,000. Mark went from $32,000, this graphic, to $166,000. He got $50,000, and then he went to Check B, got that. Then Lorraine, she went from $50,000 to $150,000. She was in the morning's live chat today. Incredible success stories. Go get Check C. The commonality of the viewers are the following. 1, they're in all live chats. Number 2, they're going and getting repeat checks because let's say you got January to March, you get more months today as well. And they're pouncing when new checks become law. Last Sunday, when Check E to K became law, and I had a special broadcast on the channel, viewers pounced and got those new categories of checks, 7 new categories of checks. What do you need to do, and what do you have to remember to do? Step 1, go ahead to this video and subscribe. Welcome to all the new subscribers. You're watching LALATE. LALATE is the number 3 most watched financial news channel in America, streaming online with 2 new channels coming, LALATE 2 and LALATE 3. The website that started it all 20 years ago, LALATE.com. The live show that everyone loves, LALATE Live, running 24/7. That's why you want to become a member. Number 2, go under this video, join the channel. And number 3, go to the front of the channel, hit that bell to make sure all notifications are set to all on. You want to become a member, subscribe, and make sure you got those notifications set to all on. And get ready to learn to earn, because now we're going to go over a major other subject matter that's heating up this week and is going to heat up this fall. And what is that other major subject matter? It's called a soft landing. What is a soft landing? A soft landing concerns the Federal Reserve and interest rate spikes. Let's go over the narrative, the analysis, and what you need to know, as the subject will heat up more in the next 30 days. A soft landing is a description to analyze and to refer to the Federal Reserve raising interest rates and then basically being done with it. Soft landing, the Federal Reserve's raising interest rates, cooling down the economy, and then basically the economy softens and is done into a soft landing. A hard landing is the Federal Reserve raising interest rates and bam, you're thrown into a very dramatic downward spiraling recession. So what are the analysts on Wall Street saying about the soft landing? First, some analysts are saying that there will be a soft landing. They don't know that. They simply don't know that. Number 2, some of them are saying the Federal Reserve is going to pivot because it is going to avoid a hard landing and will stop interest rates spiking. They don't know that either. Here's what you need to know. As we sit here in the month of August, we know nothing about a soft landing. All we know is what the Federal Reserve has given us as guidance. They're going to do beat interest rate spikes until they get inflation down. Where? 2%. They say that. Interest rate spikes the same as what they had the month of July? Yes. 75 basis point? Yes. Until they get to 2%? Yes. How quickly can they get to 2%? They've been trying it for several months, so they're not getting to 2% inflation in the next 2 months. When Wall Street analysts talk about a soft landing this fall, it's disingenuous. There is no way, no how that the Federal Reserve is getting inflation to 2% in October and November, because that's just a few months away, and 75 basis point interest rate spikes have never gotten a big move for inflation. When the Federal Reserve talks about this subject matter, what did they say? The Federal Reserve has said the following. They're staying at 75 basis point until they get inflation down, and they need to get it to 2%. Do the Federal Reserve actually say they're getting to inflation to 2% by the end of the year? No, they've not said that for a very long time. In fact, they say inflation may be pervasive into next year, and they'll stay with those interest rate spikes. So the Federal Reserve's own words indicate they're staying with 75 basis point and staying potentially into next year. Does the Federal Reserve believe that the soft landing or hard landing this fall? No. The Federal Reserve has not indicated when the soft or hard landing is happening this fall. Here's my analysis of the situation. Let's do it together. 75 basis point September. Federal Reserve says it. Then October. Do I believe that there's going to be 2% inflation in October? Of course not. We're at 8% inflation. 175 basis point increase is not going to get you 2% in October. What about November? No. December? Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. So when a Wall Street analyst talks about a soft landing in the fall of this year, September, October, I have to roll my eyes and wonder how. There's nothing that indicates that 75 basis point, 1 in September and 1 in October, is going to be ending the interest rate spikes of the Federal Reserve and giving you a soft landing in the fall. Could there be a soft landing next year? Absolutely. Could there be a soft landing in the end of this year? Maybe December. But a soft landing in the fall, September, October, not happening. Is it possible there never will be a soft landing? Yes, there is a possibility there's never a soft landing. That it's a hard landing. What is a hard landing? A hard landing is when you're thrown into recession, that the economy shrieks to a very major fall, and that major fall is very abrupt. Do we see a major fall happening just yet? No. In fact, a lot of these indications from the corporate earnings have been a slow progression downward. So we have some companies like BJ's Wholesaler beating on those corporate earnings last week. We have Target missing those corporate earnings last week. So there's a lot of different narratives where certain items are slowing, but actually some industries growing, manufacturing growing. Apple is reporting that by December 2022, it'll sell as many iPhones as last year. Does that show a hard landing? No. Does it show a soft landing? No. It actually shows a robust economy. Interesting. Ultimately, what do you need to know? You need to go with the Federal Reserve. What the Federal Reserve says is what you need to stay with. Bowman, Daly, Boulard, what have they said in the last 30 days? Let's go over the latest details starting right now. They have all said the same narrative. One, they will be staying with those interest rate spikes of 75 basis points until they get inflation down. Number two, they're going to get inflation down to 2% and stay with these interest rate spikes until it's achieved. Number three, they're going to stay with those interest rate spikes into next year. They actually said that until they get inflation down. And finally, they actually comment about Wall Street. The Federal Reserve governors have actually commented about the nonsense coming out of Wall Street. That nonsense has been things like the Federal Reserve is going to change policy, pivot, nonsense. The Federal Reserve is going to stop interest rate spikes in October, nonsense. The Federal Reserve is going to reach 2% inflation in October, nonsense. And the Federal Reserve watches the same comments you and I watch from those equity traders. Why did the equity traders say this type of nonsense? It's not particularly clear, but ultimately, who should we stay with? Your lead comments should be the Federal Reserve, not me, not the bond traders, not the gasoline traders, the Federal Reserve governors. When they give you guidance, that's what they do. The Federal Reserve does not want to shock the markets. And the way they prevent the markets from being shocked is giving you guidance and commentary. Commentary day in, day out. And the commentary is generally the same. Number 2, you want to read the FOMC minute notes when they're released, and they were released on Friday for the month of July. And do they mirror what those governors have said over the last 2 weeks in interviews? Yes, exactly the same comments. Number 3, you want to look at the bond traders, because the bond traders will trade based upon what they see as guidance of the Federal Reserve. And have the bond traders of the Federal Reserve been apples and apples? Yes, they've been apples and apples left and right over recent days. So ultimately, when you look at the situation, don't be going on a narrative that is different than the Federal Reserve's own mouths. Do not go on a narrative that is based upon a hope, a belief that is inconsistent with what the Federal Reserve has said themselves. Ultimately, what do I cover on this channel? I cover what the Federal Reserve says. What the Federal Reserve says is what the Federal Reserve does. And what they're saying is coming from interviews. What they're saying is coming from FOMC minute notes. Between now and middle September, what do we have from the Federal Reserve coming in? More interviews. I'll cover every interview from those Federal Reserve governors. And if the comments are much the same, then you know there's no pivot. You know there's no change. You know they're still aiming for that potential soft landing, but they're not going to tell you when, and they're staying with their approach. 2% inflation, 75 basis point interest rate spikes until they get it. Ultimately, that's why you win. You stay with the facts. You stay with the data. You stay with the hardcore elements. We don't run off of analysis. It's not based in facts, not based in data. And we don't go off of hopes and beliefs. We go off of where the data sits and where the data is being commented by the Fed governors. Ultimately, this is very important. It's hideously important because it impacts your inflation, it impacts your recession, it impacts your town, it impacts your community, it impacts your stimulus. And we'll be covering all that in the new week. Plus, we'll be looking at the latest details of inflation, because that details of inflation is exactly what the Federal Reserve is looking at. If corporate earnings miss, the Federal Reserve sees it. You and I see it. If labor misses, the Federal Reserve sees it. You and I see it. If the data comes in for individual benchmarks like the personal consumption expenditure index, and it's higher than expected, you see it, and the Federal Reserve sees it. That's how we work hand in hand, and that's why we've been doing so well as a family. Finally, I want to thank the viewers of this channel, the members of the channel. You've been doing really well over recent days. How have you been doing well? Number 1, you've been getting bigger, more longer durations of stimulus. We've gone from 2 to 3 months of stimulus on this channel 2 years ago to now 14 months of stimulus as the average payout. 14 months of rent, 14 months of mortgages. And a lot of viewers are getting 18 months across the board. I no longer hear 2 to 3 months. It's not happening. That is the big success story. That's why you've learned to earn. Number 2, you've been very on point with learning facts and staying with facts, not running on conjecture. Number 3, you've been inspiring people, congratulating people, keeping it positive in the live chat. If you've had a success story, send it to me on private message at facebook.com/LA News. Post in the live chat. You've stayed on focus of where this economy is, and your analysis of the economy has been really good. You've been taking my information, which is watch the supermarket checkout. How many checkers are there? People have been laid off? Watch it. Milk and eggs, watch it. Are they going up? Are they going flat? Are they going down? You've been watching salaries, and also you've been looking at the data for the housing and also the rent. These are all important. Of course, if you're driving down the street or someone else is driving you down the street, you look up and you look at the price of gasoline. You can see these things. And ultimately, if you see these things, you can learn to earn. This is why you're getting so good so quickly on this channel. I'm very, very proud of you. Keep on learning. And ultimately, I'll keep on delivering you the information. It's a brand new week and a brand new set of information, and also a brand new Evenings LA coming up tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you on that broadcast as well. All the details you need to know on this channel: a recession, inflation, and benefit raises, your housing market, and of course your stimulus. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, it's a big day and we're just getting started. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.